Good afternoon. Um, if you've looked at the title of this talk today, I'm going to spend a few minutes and we're going to talk about emotional intelligence. I want to underscore, however, that I'm not going to go through all of the academia, all of the science, all of that which justifies the importance of emotional intelligence, the power of emotional intelligence. And the reason I'm not going to do that is because you already know it. It's already ingrained in you. And the reason that we're going to be talking about it in today's context is emotional intelligence is really about you, about me, and collectively all of us, because all of us are experiencing it every day. At a very young age, we were brought up in a home, in an environment, and programming took place that instilled upon us our belief systems, how we think, what we view as right and wrong. And that growth pretty much made up in the first 7 years of our youth, a subconscious pattern, if you will, our behavior, how we feel, how we think. And that's what emotional intelligence is about understanding how we came to be who we are now, how you came to be who you are now, what reality you live in, what truths do you believe. So we're going to talk a little bit about emotional intelligence in the context of you. And the reason that I don't need to justify it, because you are the justification for emotional intelligence. You are the proof thereof. Your reality is what you live and what you think and what you feel and what you come to believe. So there's no need for me to belabor that. You can spend days or hours researching quantum theory. You can research the law of attraction and everything else that surrounds this notion of emotional intelligence. But what I'm going to spend a little time talking about is why it's so important. Now, each and every one of us at this moment are at a point in time in our reality that was the makeup of what we thought, what we felt, and how we behaved and others around us. That's the reality we live. And it does not bring into question right or wrong. It brings into question, did we consciously get there, or are we running on a program in our subconscious typically? And I would contend that if you were to really think about it, most of the things that you and I do are built into our subconscious and they become patterns. They almost run on automatic. And emotional intelligence is about getting to the notion of stepping back and taking a look at how we think, how we feel, and to determine whether in fact we are in control of that or whether we are driving it or are we merely responding. Now, if you were to look at that growth of our lives and where we are today, you can see it indicated in 4 different areas. Our physical intelligence, if you will, how our body works, the hormones, everything that drives in an autonomous manner the way that our body reacts. And then you have your mental intelligence, your IQ, if you will, what you've learned and how to do things and the intelligence that you've gathered from that perspective. Then there's the emotional aspect of it. What drives us? What makes us feel good? And how are we handling our emotions to the betterment of ourselves, the betterment of our family, the betterment of our community, country, or the world at large? So couple that with the 4th element that I speak about, and that is our spiritual intelligence, our belief systems. How do we perceive ourselves as fitting in? And if you take emotional intelligence and you start to master it and start to use it, not merely to respond, but to drive how your life unfolds, the reality that you live, that can be done individually and collectively. So emotional intelligence gets a lot of visibility, a lot of discussion, and typically it centers about how do we react? How do we respond to situations? And it's very important. There's no taking away from that. But it typically is driven towards how I, as an individual, or you, are going to respond emotionally through our feelings and our behavior to circumstances that exist around us. And being able to view the world today and see some of the things that go on, you can clearly see that mastering individual emotional intelligence is something we need to do a lot of work on. It's something that needs to be ingrained in our children. It's something that we need to practice as leaders around our family. And it certainly is something that's important to the success of businesses and organizations. So the ability to understand our emotions and react accordingly in a constructive manner is certainly one of the paramount things that needs to be accomplished in this vein of emotional quotient and intelligence. But I would offer another way to consider it. If you were to then look at emotional intelligence from the standpoint of how you act, that's where you really start to gain control. That's where you really start to be productive. So it's not merely reacting to circumstances around us, it's acting in a way that influences the circumstances around us, influences and produces our reality. And again, you can look at quantum physics and you can look at all the reading by spiritual leaders, by doctors, by psychologists, by leaders across the world that understand the reality that we live is the reality that we feel and create and think. So being able to act on our emotional intelligence is a second element that is so key today, to be able to produce that which we want, that which we desire. The third aspect is, how do you make change? If I am at a certain emotional intelligence state or capability, how do I then influence change? How do I master the ability to change my reality based on my thoughts, based on my feelings, and based on my emotions? And when you master the ability to change and understand that change is occurring around us and it's occurring within us, then you're able to get to the notion of making improvements to yourself, to your family, or to the world. And this leads to the aspect of creation. By being able to master emotions that lead to productive and spiritually enhanced feelings, individually and collectively, is what makes a difference in the world. And if we're not willing to step up to the plate and lead in this fashion in everything that we do, what we are simply doing is running in an autonomic mode that will never make a change in our lives or the lives of others. So creating change, creating the environment, creating the reality we wish to live is what emotional intelligence is about. It is the language of the subconscious. So after change and creation is the ability to grow. Without it, we will not be able to evolve to the environment around us because it's changing every day. We will not be able to control how we react to that environment. And it's necessary that we take the reins and harness our emotions to make the changes that we wish to see. And we can look at ourselves and we can say, I'm happy with where I'm at, which is fine, but take note, change is occurring around us all the time. The way that you and I were programmed when we were born was a different generation than the ones that will come after us. And the environment that they will master emotional intelligence within will change. So the point being, if we are really sincere about bettering ourselves, we have to make a choice. Now we can take and be like we are now, exist, and as change occurs, things die off, and this is what we will be. And eventually, without this plant in this example growing, this plant will die. But for those that make a choice, those that want to blossom, you're going to continue to have growth. You're going to continue to bloom, and you're going to change with change. You're going to drive change. So emotional intelligence is not something that we need to deny. It's there. Our life is proof of it. It's something we embrace and something that we harness and something that we use to make a difference in our lives, in the lives of others, in the world at large. And if we master that and we start to treat it seriously, will be able to address the many changes that are occurring across the globe, the multi-generational capabilities, the technology, the artificial intelligence, all those things around us that we've created, we also must emotionally master. So there'll be a lot of series on this. My only charter to anybody out there would be to say, it's your choice. You can live life and emotionally embrace it in the way that it's happening today, or you can harness the emotions that you have, the feelings and the intellect and the spiritual capabilities, and make a difference in the future for the world that we want to hand off. I thank you for your time, and look forward to seeing you on other ventures. Thank you.